Hi, this is Phil, and I'm here to tell you all about the Capes and Lunatics Patreon. Get early access to all of our interviews, including the monthly Chichester chats with writer and comic book legend D.G. Chichester, new episodes of classic Capes and Lunatics shows, including The Quantum Zone, This, That, or the Third, and many, many more specials, all completely uncensored. Access starts for $3 a month, full video when you pledge $5 a month. Check out the link in our show notes or go to patreon.com/CapesandLunatics. Hope to see you there.
This is Brian Edward Hill, and you're listening to the Capes and Lunatics podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of the Capes and Lunatics, another celebrity interview. It's me, Phil, it's Lilith, and again, we have another returning friend of the show, Mr. Bryan Hill. Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Great, because we get to talk to you. I know we wanted to talk at least one current thing and one upcoming thing, which I'm sure you'll be like, I can't talk about that, but...
Oh, a current thing, I tell a bunch of stories. Upcoming thing, I'm thinking of making toast. Like some butter, maybe.
Oh, nice.
A little carb on a Thursday.
Well, the thing we can talk about is Ultimate Black Panther, which the third issue came out this week. So I think my first question was like, how much is it more fun like writing like an Ultimate book than like something in like the regular Marvel universe? Because they kind of let you off the leash a little more, and it's like is it more open where it's like they will let you maybe do a little more than they would in like a 616 Black Panther book?
That's a good question. It's hard for me to say, right? Because generally, if you look at my work in comics, rarely do I come into massive amounts of continuity. You know, I mean, even when I did my little run of Detective Comics, I did like a 5-issue arc of Detective a while back. Mm-hmm. Those are all siloed off, you know, and the Batman universe, I mean, it's basically like, you know, I am vengeance, I am the night. And like, it's like that. It doesn't really change, right? So like, I haven't really dealt with the idea of coming in and doing a long run with a bunch of continuity behind me that I have to sort of keep up. So I guess in theory, it would be easier, I suppose. I imagine that's probably about how in the writer is to the continuity itself, right? I mean, the thing about Black Panther that I thought was cool in the Ultimate universe was, you know, the ability to focus on elements of the world in a way that I wanted to establish a tone that I wanted. Because, you know, it's the thing about the Black Panther part of Marvel is, unlike, you know, your Spider-Man and your Fantastic Four and you know, stuff like that, Wakanda is sort of its own like universe. You know, I mean, theoretically, you could do like 4 or 5 books that are just about Wakanda and that region and its conflicts. So it was interesting to be able to, I guess, build in a world that a canvas that large. But I can't say that if I came into the 616 continuity, I wouldn't be able to do that as well, right? You know, so, I mean, that was more of the draw for me. Because, like, you know, I'm not a guy that's like, being the Ultimate Universe, Captain America's star is a circle. Like, that's not, you know, I don't wake up in the morning like hype about that. But I just always felt like the Black Panther universe had more of an epic approach waiting for it. That you could slow burn it a little bit. It's not a bad guy of the arc kind of world. It's more of a world of geopolitics, the responsibilities of being the king of a kingdom, ancient belief systems and how they weave themselves into modern politics, what the purpose of war is, when do you intervene, when do you not intervene. That's why I talk about Herbert a lot, because it sort of gave me the potentiality of Herbert, maybe not as strange and as overtly I did LSD and I wrote a thing as Dune is, but it gives you, I think, more of that Asimov almost foundation, like canvas. So that was really appealing to me, and that was what drew me into it.
So would you say it's you weren't going for, oh, hey, how can I do a different Black Panther story? You were just going for, what is my Black Panther story?
Well, I think for me, and I can't speak for anyone else, I think for me, if I went into something trying to itemize what I did differently, then I think I'm just giving you a story full of gimmicks. The way my imagination works. And then I also have like a, if it ain't broken, don't fix it sort of mentality. And it's, to me, the ultimateness of the book is less about the initial presentation of Wakanda and T'Challa and that world, and more about where I can go with it, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, if I do an alternate history of the 60s, I'm not going to do an alternate history where Kennedy didn't win. I'm going to do an alternate history where Kennedy survived, mm-hmm. right? So that I might start it in 62, and then you're like, oh, well, this is just like, the 60s. But then, like, let me get to November 22nd, 63, right? And then you're like, oh, wait a minute. Governor Connolly didn't make it. This is interesting. Where are we going from here? And so, like, if I started in 62 and told a story in parallel about JFK and Lee Harvey Oswald, you'd be like, all right, this is kind of interesting. Parallelism, collision course. They're going to meet at the book depository, and there we go. But then if Connolly doesn't survive and Kennedy does and Oswald's never caught, now you're in like, ooh, what's going on here? So I think that's kind of more of what people can expect. So when you see like, Killmonger and you see Aurora and you see these characters and you kind of look at them through the prism of what has gone before, I don't feel beholden to any of that. I'm not saying that I'm not going to engage it. I'm not saying I am going to engage it, but there's no inherent reason why Killmonger and T'Challa have to dislike each other. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, I'm not beholden to that. I could be going there. I could not be going there.
Well, I think that's what I was going to say. I think that's a lot of the attractiveness of the ultimate line. It's like, it is that surprise. It's like, it could be the same old, or they could be the closest of allies. You never know.
Right, and even when we're talking about Moon Knight, talking about Khonshu, all this stuff, like they may not wind up being the main villains of the first 12 issues of this book. Oh. They could be an antagonistic force in the narrative world, but they may not ultimately be the bad guy of this thing, right? So that's where I think the surprise comes in. And so I am doing a lot of world building, and I'm kind of pacing the reader through the story and really just setting up all the various elements, hopefully in an entertaining way, so you get a clear sense of, oh, this is the sand that's in this sandbox. And ultimately we have a story about T'Challa trying to figure out how to be the king of this place, what the Black Panther means, what it means for the region outside of Wakanda, and what mysteries lie in the world around, so another thing I wanted to play with was the kind of closed circle of understanding we have of Wakanda, because for so long it's been Wakanda is this near utopian kingdom here in Africa, and they have harnessed vibranium, and through vibranium they create a lot of this really interesting technology, and the Black Panther exists in legacy to protect and defend and all this this stuff that we're used to. But I'm like, why should the mysteries of Africa be a closed circle? Why should vibranium be so stable and so alone in its existence? And why should the origins of vibranium not be a thing to explore? You know, and the potential sentience of vibranium. You know, like, what is it? And is it something that has a will? And if it does have a will, does it have an opposite? Right? And what is that opposite? And so, you know, so those are the things that I'm going to kind of unfold slowly. But I think were I to just hit the reader with all of that from the beginning, they'd be like, wow, Bryan was on one.
And I'm sure it's just, you know, I'm sure you weren't doing this planning on it, but also a good time to put Storm in a book these days.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, I look, I always thought she was super cool.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, my Storm, my favorite Storm is always like, you know, Mohawk, leather vest, you know, can't tell me nothing Storm, right? I'll keep the profanity out of it for the children's. But yeah, and so like I was like, cool, let's throw her in the book. Let's see what happens, you know, when you kind of put these characters together and you have this rising menace. And we're telling the story of a kingdom that is rising to challenge Wakanda, you know, for its stature. And it is kind of a tale of two kingdoms a lot, right? And then you have one that exists somewhat in isolationism and another with nefarious ambitions that wants to be heavily involved beyond its walls, that's actively trying to draft people into its ideology and its forces, right? And so, you know, and it's kind of like what we see in the geopolitics of the world. It's like, what do you do when you see a rival kingdom being erected around you? And they have not made a direct attempt at war. I mean, beyond maybe a assassination, you know, attempt and beyond all these other things, right? And so those things I thought were really fascinating and interesting and worth exploring and dealing with.
And like any changes to like the costume, was that like did you have any input on that? Any thoughts, or was that your artist?
No, I mean, Caselli, you know, they wanted to reinvigorate the aesthetics a little bit, and I just kind of like, you know, looked at some things and commented here and there, but that's not really my floor. So, you know, I mean, I imagine that comes with a lot of internal decision making, because there will probably be little plastic things that you can buy based on these designs, and, you know, based on the success of the book, you know, who knows where it goes. But, you know, so I feel like that is, you know, way above my pay grade to really, you know, influence. I mean, I didn't want, you know, something that didn't look at all like Black Panther, but none of the designs that were presented to me were so off the mark that I thought we couldn't use them. Because, you know, we're dealing with a brilliant artist. Sometimes you just gotta let people cook.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, you said based on the success. I mean, this has been selling pretty good, right? Because this also went back for, I know Ultimate Spider-Man went back for a second, a couple printings. This went back for a couple printings, correct?
Yeah, I don't really keep track.
I thought I heard that this also went back for.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I just don't. Like, you know, like I just try to write the books well and, you know, say thank you to the people that write to me on social media, but I'm not really a numbers tracker when it comes to the books, but I heard it was doing okay. There's some kind of mystery.
Keep your sanity, huh?
Well, you know, I just have a lot going on, Lilith. I just have a lot going on. So, like, I can't keep up with the day-to-day of that stuff. You know, I mean, I can barely turn these books in on time while I'm doing all the other things I'm doing. But, yeah, it's always cool to hear that people embrace it. And, you know, like, you know, Black Panther is one of those characters that's had, you know, lengthy runs of significance. But I could tell that the readership felt they were underserved still. You know, and sometimes, you know, and those are the kind of characters I enjoy writing, honestly. Like, look, I love writing Batman because Batman is the Hamlet of comics, right? It's like if you are an actor, at some point, you are going to play Hamlet, right? And so every actor at some point stands in front of a mirror and is like, to be or not to be? That's just a question, right? Well, I think every writer in comics, at least from my generation of writers, who are less postmodern than I think the younger, brilliant generation, who are a little bit more postmodern in their thinking. I think a lot of writers from my generation have at least one Batman story somewhere. You know, there's always some kind of thing you want to do with Bruce. So, you know, that's like an interesting character. But in general, I tried to avoid the characters who I think are just buried under seminal work, right? Like, you know, even when you're writing Batman, it's like, well, the best Bryan Hill Batman story. Like, I can't even get into the top 20, right? You got to go through Year One, Dark Knight, Killing Joke, Arkham Asylum. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many. The Cult.
Yeah.
Like, you have to go through so many stories just to even get a slot.
Even month to month, I mean, there's so many Batman books, and regular.
Yeah, then you got Tom stuff that he's doing that was crazy and great, and Scott's stuff was crazy and great. So like you're just to even get on the reading list is kind of rough. But when you're dealing with characters like Blade or Black Panther, where you've had some significant runs, but you're not buried under these hyper iconic works, then it's more exciting to me, I think. Because you have to ask yourself, well, what the hell am I going to say that Grant Morrison, Tom King, Scott Snyder, like all these folks, Frank Miller, like what's Bryan going to say that they haven't gotten to yet? I don't know.
Yeah.
Were you tempted to, or was there a stipulation that it had to be T'Challa, or were you tempted to not use T'Challa as the Black Panther?
No, I was never tempted to not use T'Challa. I think part of that maybe just like, maybe it's even a subconscious emotional desire to, lionize Chadwick, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know. It never, that's a good question. That never popped into my mind. And I just don't think it would be as interesting, right? Like, I think there's room to explore with this guy and levels to explore. So not having him be Black Panther, I don't know. I never considered it.
And did you ever give any consideration, maybe like starting, I don't know, from the beginning, like his childhood or anything? Because again, you jump in, he's king. It's just no.
Well, part of it is I maybe it's the screenwriting that I do most of the time. But one of the edicts I have for storytelling is you want to start the story at the most important period in the character's life. And while there may be events in his childhood that I can flash back to anytime I want, I would rather have the space to visit that period when I wanted to, in moments of significance, than to just do it chronologically in a way that would just sort of map it all out. I mean, like, it's kind of how I felt about Solo as a film. Like, if this was important, Lucas would have started here. Or there's a reason why he did it.
Yeah. Put that as a drop, please.
I'm just being real. Like, there's a reason why he didn't start there. Because that wasn't the most important place to start for that guy, And so what you don't want a story where it's like, well, I get it. He gambles, he keeps a gun in his hip, he's kind of in it for himself, but still has a decent heart, and he likes Chewbacca. I got that in 3 pages. Can we get to the Jedi now? So like, yeah. So I think sometimes with the way that stories are approached and the way that we try to like harvest every year of a timeline for a kill, we wind up with things that, like, I don't know, they're just like deeply dissatisfying.
I'm glad to hear that from a Hollywood writer. I'm just like, anytime sequels, I'm like, I don't know, sequels are weird because it's like,
prequels are even worse.
Yeah, like prequels. It's like, the character's not going to die, because they're going to go on to what and then it's like, do we need to know every second? Do we need to know how we got the ship? But
there's a way a prequel can work, right? So like, a prequel story, I think, can be really effective if something in that story is going to radically define the experience you had with the previous movie that you saw, right? So, like, if you take Star Wars, for instance, I think there was always great interest in the era of the Clone Wars and Anakin Skywalker, because the idea that, like, when your father was a great hero, great pilot, and all that, and then he was betrayed by a pupil of mine, Darth Vader, I think we were always into what that is. And like, I am your father. And you're like, oh no, like, how does that work? How could you be his dad? But Anakin was supposed to be good, and how did Anakin get bad?
But did we need 3 movies of that?
Yeah, and then there was a real pregnancy about, like, well, what the hell happened?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, how did we get from, I guess he was friends with Obi-Wan, to the son of Skywalker must be found. It's like, what? Okay, now he's talking about himself in the third person. Like, this is all crazy.
That's how you know he's evil.
Right. So we were really interested in Vader, and then the mask comes off, and oh, my son, leave me, and you're like, okay, well, like, I want to know more about that guy.
Yeah.
Right. And so, answering the questions of the Clone Wars, well, there was a real interest in seeing what that narrative was, and whatever your experience is with the prequels in terms of like how the stories hit you and all of that. I think on an information level, they're really effective. Like, we can quibble about this and quibble about that, and monologues about sand and what are you going to do here and all that, and a pod race that lasts for 17 hours.
Trade talks, yeah.
Right. I give Lucas a pass on the trade talks because people tell stories about what is most important to them at the time. And when he was when he did A New Hope, he was a dude that had a vision that was trying to stand up for it and make it happen when no one believed in him. And he was looking at the two sons trying to make it work. He told a story about that. When he did The Phantom Menace, he was a gajillionaire. So, yeah, he did care about taxes.
Yeah.
Like, a lot.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like, the Trade Federation was real for him.
It's good enough for George Bush.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's real. That's real. So, like, taxes. Like, I get it, bro. Like, you got billions of dollars, man. Like, this is real talk for you, So, like, people tell stories about what they're experiencing, but like, I think Lucas, I think on an information level, it added a richness to New Hope, Empire, and Jedi. Like, I remember, watching Revenge of the Sith, right? Which I think is the most effective of the three prequels to me.
Yeah.
I think that Hayden had done the difficult task of really stepping into that character by then, and I think there's some strong filmmaking there. I mean, it certainly has the aesthetic of the prequels. It's where you're getting a lot more stimulus than you're normally used to in the kind of David Lean sort of kind of tradition of the original trilogy. But after I saw the Obi-Wan and Vader fight on Mustafar, I remember like rewatching Return of the Jedi. And, when Vader is fighting Luke, and Luke does the backflip and lands on the balcony, and the first thing Vader says is, Obi-Wan has taught you well, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, man, that is a 20-year throw, George. Like, hell yes, bars. Like, I was so like, oh, wait, he did not.
Like, the high ground.
That is a multiple decade throw right there. Like, I was like, George Lucas is the GOAT. I would hear nothing else. Nothing that crazy has ever existed in a genre franchise ever, right? And so it kind of, it added to, like the relationship between Palpatine and Vader when you look at it in the prequels, and then you look at it in the other movies, you realize when he's in the Empire, he means that. Like, when he's like, we can overthrow this dude and rule the galaxy as father and son, you realize that, like, Vader has never really been down with this guy. He just didn't really have a choice. Mm-hmm. And he always knew, that he was betrayed, but he was stuck. Because what else are you going to do? You're a monster, you killed Padme, whatever. So that's an example, I think, of a prequel that makes the original trilogy richer and more textured. Mm. But when you're talking about something, and look, brilliant people work in this and they work really hard, and I'm not besmirching anyone's work. But when you're talking about something like Solo, where it's like, I don't feel like any of this isn't changing how I'm looking at Han Solo in the movies, and so the problem you run into, I think, when you're doing that kind of thing is, the stakes feel very low because you sort of know what the outcome is going to be. And then you're like, well, whatever happened in this movie, it wasn't important enough for them to talk about it in the Millennium Falcon. Like, it wasn't that important, right? And so, yeah, I think you want to kind of tell the story in the time that is most compelling, for the character. And I think, T'Challa, after the assassination, figuring out how he's going to deal with this kingdom being threatened not only in like a semi-physical way, but also in a geopolitical way, right? That to me is where you start the story. I can start the story with young T'Challa running through the grass, Father, and then he sees a panther, and he's scared of the panther, and then the panther talks to him, and then his dad puts his hand on his shoulder and like, this is from Mother Bast. You know, I mean, I could do that. But is that like really better than just seeing Black Panther be Black Panther and do Black Panther stuff? I don't think so.
Yes, Father, I shall become a panther.
Right, like we get it.
Panther crashed through the window. I shall become a panther. Yes.
One day you will inherit all of these. I get it. He was on the cliffs and he was talking to him, and then the hand was on the shoulder, and then I get it. You know.
And is it? I mean, you are a smart man, but is it a little intimidating? I mean, writing a Black Panther just because it's like you have to get into the politics, and you know, you kind of have to think a little bigger.
I
than
mean,
like
real world informs. So
well, true, yeah.
Just
I mean, you know, to Lola's point, you know,
you just got to pay attention to the world around us.
Yeah, I mean, the headlines really do it for you these days, right?
Truly.
So, like, it's almost harder to not let that stuff into a story. You know, like Blade was more challenging because I'm like, there's probably something more important than what Blade doing right now. I mean, this will probably be all right. There's a whole lot of superheroes, and like she bad, but like, you know, he know Doctor Strange or whatever. He can call somebody, but I'm really worried about Ukraine. You know, like, so, you know what I mean? So sometimes you feel like you're whistling past a burning building on this stuff. But at least in Black Panther, that kind of, you know, the existential terror that we all feel the moment we look at any news headline. I can siphon that into something.
Well, maybe I should turn that around. Is it hard to write an ethical rule, an ethical leader, a world leader?
Well, you know, it's an interesting question, right? Because, you know, like there is a certain philosophy that by virtue of being a leader of a nation, you are absolved from the ethics of its people, right? And in some countries that is explicit, and in some countries that's implied. But I don't think in any country is it wholesale rejected, right? Yeah. Like right now we're living in a moment where the Supreme Court is deciding whether or not the president can ever be accused of a crime. And I'm not even like take the left right out of it. Just the idea that any nation could have a leader that it could be ratified by a judicial branch that they can't actually commit a crime while they're serving their function. I don't know how that doesn't immediately create a tyrant.
Oh yeah, no, like, I don't know why that's a question. Yeah, no.
Like I just think that, I mean, I don't care who was president of the United States. Yeah, I mean, Yoda could be president of the United States, but the law still needs to apply, right?
Yeah.
Immunity they have. Punish me, they cannot. Illegal you are. Yes, illegal. Illegal for you to exist. Like we can't. We can't.
Yeah.
Like we can't, right?
And that's the thing about like royalty, you know, not like say like England where they have a parliamentary procedure and all that stuff. This is like real royalty.
Yeah.
Old school royalty.
Old school, you know, not like royalty like
they go shopping and I shall rule over you, royalty.
Yeah, they wave at us and like, you know, it's not that kind of royalty. It's like royalty, right? So yeah, I think I do think that in general we should be like, you know, engaging in fiction, the idea of power and legacy and political corruption. You know, I don't think there's anything wrong with engaging in politics in a story. I just like to engage politics on the fictional terms of the story rather than make a story a vehicle of my own personal
thinly veiled. Yeah.
You know, like I try not to ever write something where it's like Brian's on a sandbox telling you how to vote in November. Like I don't really do that. Like I do like engaging politics in the story, but like on its own fictional terms, you know, rather than just trying to make it like too directly allegorical to this or that.
Can you say how many issues you've written so far?
I believe that I am completing the 7th issue.
Okay. Which one is your favorite? By the time of the moon tonight,
the 7th issue shall be sent to Marvel on digital carrier pigeon.
Which one has been your favorite one so far?
Oh, I don't know. Honestly, they're
all of them.
You know, I mean, they're all kind of. I will say this, that like I try to when I look at the story, if you notice, every issue has like a different vibe than the previous issue. Yeah. So I'm never like stuck in the same energy, you know? So they're all interesting to me because of the shifting focus I can put on certain things. You know, and sometimes this is going to be about hitting you with a cliffhanger. And then sometimes this is going to be just like a quiet issue where two characters are going to kind of grow an arc together, you know? Sometimes this is going to be just like a big action issue, you know, that kind of thing. So it's all very different.
Okay, fair enough.
And this, along with all the other Ultimate books, are ongoings, right? These aren't limited, right?
I believe so.
Okay.
I mean,
good.
In this day, what is ongoing?
True.
What faith can we have, and where shall we put it? But I believe it's on. I mean, if people keep buying them, they'll be ongoing, right? That's how it works. You know, so but I imagine there's will around keeping all of these things going for at least a year and change, I would think. You know, with just the largesse of the effort, right?
And as a writer, how do you feel about the modern model, like renumbering every time a new creative team comes on? They kind of like start at a number one. Do you like that model, or do you think they should just keep the numbering like they used to? You know.
Well, I mean, I find it confusing as a consumer.
Yeah.
Right. And I think as a collector, not that I'm much of a collector anymore, but I think as a collector, I think it certainly devalues a lot of the chronology and the value that comes of it. You know, I guess there's a marketing reason for it. You know, I guess number ones tend to still move more units than number 679s and that kind of thing. But I also feel like it's like the worst kept magic trick in the world. You know, it's like a clear box. It's like, I can see that she's just tucking her legs in by her stomach. Those aren't her legs. Like, why do you keep sawing? I mean, I can see it. It's a clear box. Like, she's right there. Like, she just scratched her toe, bro. Like, you could.
I mean, they could at least give us foils and particular covers at this point.
Although I think they're starting to do more foil covers again instead. Yeah.
Give me something for the number one at least.
It's like we know, like, we can see it right there. You know, so like, I don't know, but I guess it still works on a marketing level and communications level for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. So I kind of like it, and then I kind of think, you know, everything, if there's a new number one every couple of years, yeah, like you said, it's kind of confusion for the consumer.
Well, you know, I think in general with entertainment, we have a problem with telling people what is priority with hierarchy, right? Mm-hmm. Like, and I think it's spilled over into virtually every facet of entertainment, right? Because it used to be when something was released, we kind of knew what the important thing was to engage. You know, and it's like on a franchise level, I don't know what I'm supposed to be watching. Am I watching the show or the other show or the other show or this movie, or do I wait for the other movie? And is this the movie? What they all no, but they're all in every movie now. So every movie is the movie where they're in every movie. And you're just like, you just get overwhelmed, and you're like, I don't know what's the important thing to pay attention to, right?
All of it.
You know, and the answer would be all of it. And
ka-ching, ka-ching,
and ka-ching, ka-ching. And then you just wind up just getting kind of overwhelmed, and then you never see anything, or you just watch recaps on YouTube. Right.
Guilty.
Get right. Like, I mean, how many people be like, "Oh, yeah, I watched it." No, you watched New Rock Stars. Let's be real.
Shout out to the New Rock Stars.
Let's be real now. You saw it on heavy spoilers. Let's be real. You didn't really watch it. You know, I
love that we're all watching the same YouTube channel.
So what? So what? Like half of Twitter all just gave Fallout 10 hours.
Well, some people don't have a life on Twitter, so I don't know.
That's restricted. You know what I mean? Like, come on, y'all. Like, y'all ain't finished it that fast. You know, y'all went to YouTube like everybody else and was like, "Ooh, I thought that was really interesting." You ain't watched that joint. Ain't no way. Ain't no way you saw that joint.
Well, that's like, you know, I think a lot of people now, they don't even watch those late night shows or Saturday Night Live. They just watch like the clips on YouTube the next day. Yeah.
Sorry, John Oliver.
You got to cut the YouTube on. You know, we watch so we watch everything in recap, basically, right? And so I think that's just kind of part and parcel of this very difficult period we have now, where we don't really know like what is out. Like, did Drake put a record out, or is this just a single, or is he just appearing on someone else's record? I don't know. I just type Drake into Spotify, and I play something that starts with a phone call, and he whining about something, and I'm like, this sound all right. It sound all right, Yeah. Yeah. Tell him, man. We keep choosing the wrong ones. So you wind up being like a butterfly, just kind of like.
Well, like I say, I think it's such a catch-22 because we live in such a golden age where there's so much content, but it's like no one can consume all of it. There's so much of it.
Yeah, and I think it's wonderful to have tons of choices, but at the same time, I think a lot of good things are just kind of it's hard for them to connect, right? Like there's so many things I know are good that I have to find the time to watch because they keep hitting me. So like. Within the span of a week, I'm getting hit with Sugar, Ripley, Fallout, and then Tokyo Vice just finished its season, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna watch Alien. Like literally, like I get intimidated. I turn into Larry David, and I just like put something from like 1975 on.
Comfort shows, you need them.
Well, because I know you just watch Alien. It's good.
Well, it's good.
It's very, very good.
Yeah. All right. Before we run out of time, I don't know how much you can talk about it, but you will be writing I'm sure you're probably already working on it, but Midnight Suns for the Blood Hunt event. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can't give plot details away, but, I will say that, like, cool horror stuff happens. Cool Ghost Rider stuff happens. You should read it because it's cool. No, it's these are characters I kind of dig, and I love the occult side of the Marvel universe. I feel like it can bite a little more than some of the other stuff can.
Oh, see, look at that! That's a writer for a vampire crossover. Bite, yeah.
Well, I mean, the synopsis is floating out there, so
let me tell you,
that's a writer.
I'm interested to see. It's not really spoilers because, like I said, the synopsis is out there. What Blade is gonna do with Dracula? Because that's bad. Talk about bad blood.
Yeah, I mean, there's stuff going on. There's stuff going on, but I think it's a really cool horror story, and
So emphasis on horror for sure.
I mean, that's kind of like the thing I'm on right now.
Suns, I would just hope so.
That's the thing I'm on right now.
Like gory horror, or just
I mean, there's a little
horror?
bit. Well, you got to separate horror into a couple things, right?
Yeah.
So when we talk about horror as a genre, we're really talking about two different things happening simultaneously. We're talking about horror, which is the act of revulsion. I am horrified by something. And then we're talking about terror, which is more about the everlasting kind of enduring fear, right? Mm-hmm. And so a good horror as genre experience is a combination of both horror and terror, right? If you only have terror, you have a thriller. If you only have a horror, you just have revulsion. Mm-hmm. And I think you want to kind of combine the two in measures. Like if you look at the manga work of Junji Ito, for instance, I think Ito's work is incredibly good at combining both horror, like just revolting imagery, and terror, which is the kind of persistent psychological dread. So both of those things, I think, are present in the Midnight Sun stuff. And I do take the horror genre Marvel stuff I do seriously on that level. I mean, that's what I really enjoyed doing with Blade, which was, kind of doing it in a robust, like, no, I'm embracing the horror of all of this. And there's action, and then there's this, and there's that, and there's some banter and all the things. But yeah, it's my favorite genre. Always been my favorite genre. So, anytime I have an excuse to tell a scary story, I take it.
Nice.
There's even going to be some horror elements that will creep into Black Panther. Oh, I'm afraid the horror will be quite operational when your book arrives.
Nice.
What is it? Nobody's
really touched on that, so yeah, I'd love to tap into everything.
Yeah, that's
for Black Panther.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big world, right? It's a big world.
Very big. And like just the Wakanda itself kind of can be dreary and scary, and
for sure,
what lurks in every corner kind of thing.
What lurks in every corner.
And thank you for calling out Conchu finally. Someone's finally
somebody had to do it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm here for.
F in the chat for Ray, guys.
Oh, jeez. All right.
She's getting it on all sides.
Exactly. So with the Midnight Sun stuff, like, are there for the logistics of it, are there lots of talks with lots of different writers? Because I mean, this thing's basically going through like every Marvel book.
The Bloodline stuff. I mean, I imagine there are. I only really pay attention to things that affect the story I want to tell and things that I can't affect in the story they want to tell, right?
Yeah.
So,
I just never know if it's like, if you want to use a certain character and someone's like, oh no, this is, they're over in so-and-so's book, you got to
it's like a big Zoom call.
Work out
taking notes.
Yeah, the whiteboard. You got to work out the timeline. Okay, well, this character's going to be here and then he'll be across town.
Yeah, generally, it's sort of like casting a film, where generally you try to get your cast locked from the beginning. And in that case, it's more like casting a film and then writing the film based on the cast you have. So you try to get all that stuff clarified before you conceive a story, because then you can use the parts that you have. I mean, sometimes, like I got curveballs thrown at me when I was doing Batman and the Outsiders, for instance. Where I think I was 2 issues in at the script level, and then I found out that the bad guy that I was centering that book around, a fancier writer needed that bad guy for something fancy. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I have to find a new bad guy then. So sometimes that does happen, but that's like part and parcel of working in Big 2 comics, you're working with the stuff. In the case of Midnight Suns, again, I think these characters are more siloed off, in a lot of ways. So, like, I tend to gravitate to, if you guys, don't have ideas for what they'd be doing during this period, I do, and I can come up with a thing. That's why, if you notice, you've never really seen me like on some Avengers or something like that, right? Like, I generally just don't have any interest in writing that kind of thing, because you do wind up, sort of like, oh, wait, what? You Captain America over here, but Iron Man over here. But what Iron Man is it? Is the other Iron Man? No, it's the new Iron Man. He over here. But does he still fly? He fly? Okay, so he still fly. Okay, so he can be little in the panel, but I can't have him talk. Oh, because the sorcerer took his mouth, so he can't talk. Right. Yeah. So you wind up on some of that.
Oh yeah, I mean, some of those team books have to be the hardest ones, because like you said, the Avengers, you got to see, if half your cast have their own books, you got to work with that. And it's like, God, you're writing X-Men. It's like, well, is Wolverine in 50 other places this month, so he can't be here this month? Okay. Totally.
And so you just kind of wind up being like, I just want to tell a story about Flash Thompson. What Flash Thompson doing? I just did Flash Thompson 4 issues. Life of Flash. You just wind up kind of in that space, because you're just like, I don't know what you're talking about. But a lot of the characters, like the Midnight Suns, the scary kind of horror occult characters, a lot of them, have been dormant for so long too, there's just like, people just aren't really messing around with them very much, and so like you saw in Blade, I had a whole thing with a Satana in there, and it's like, cool. So like, I love digging through the who's who and being like, ooh, is anyone doing anything with this character? And they're like, no. I'm like, all right, great, because then you almost can kind of come in and do whatever you want. Mm-hmm. That honors the key aspects of the character, but you don't have, a year previously of appearances that you have to sort of deal with. As like, if I was thinking as a filmmaker, that would always be the more interesting thing for me to do. Like, if I was going to talk to James Gunn about writing and directing a movie for the DC thing, I'd be like talking to him about like the Spectre or something.
Oh yeah.
Like I'd be like the Spectre, the Question,
Dr. Fate.
Get like Alan Ritchson to play Wild Dog.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
You see that though, right? See, now that's never going to leave your head. That's never going to leave. I have incepted the Alan Ritchson Wild Dog movie into your head.
Oh, nice.
Sometimes we gotta manifest. I totally.
Alan's the homie. I knew him on Titans.
That's right. Yeah.
He's a real good dude, and that dude is just different. Like, there's sometimes somebody walks into a room and you're like, oh, you just had to be famous because you're just not even like a person. Like this all about evolution stopped. No, it didn't. Look at Alan.
Oh, I've seen people online now. They're trying to manifest. They're like, just make him the Batman. Just make him Batman.
I mean, like Alan is the next step of whatever this is. This human experiment is. Alan's the next part. Like, he's not the previous. He's the next part. so he's great. But yeah, like that would be the thing that I'd be more interested in doing. on anything, right, is, let everyone come in with the 50 million ways they want to do the Flash and Batman and Green Lantern and Wonder Woman and all that. Y'all have fun with that. I'm going to be over here in Baton Rouge with Matthew McConaughey making the Spectre.
Oh,
Right.
I put that in your head, too. See how I do it?
Yeah,
Incepted.
that, yeah.
You put the energy around it, now it's going to happen. I was going to happen. Well, I used to be a police detective. Now I'm a little bit something more.
Well, he did used to be a police detective.
I'm a little something more now. I can see things that people can't see, what you can't feel. I can feel it. I can feel. So like that would be.
Oh
really
yeah,
cool.
I can see it now. Yeah, I want that. I want the Spectre to come up on some bad guy and be like, all right. It's time to face God's judgment. Yeah.
Well, I come from the nether realm. You don't know where I'm going to come. I'm in the shadows. No, I'm not here. But like that's the stuff I think you can like do things that people will embrace, and you can find a new way, and you're not, making something out of the shadow of this other thing that they've like fallen in love with, so like that's what gets excited to me, but the problem is a lot of times, a company may not feel like that character has marketable value.
Well, I mean, before they put out the first movie, who thought Guardians of the Galaxy was going to do anything?
Right. So we are in like a kind of a landscape now where, if you want to do a Martin Campbell feeling, he's the director of Casino Royale, like kind of feeling checkmate movie, do that.
Yeah.
Right. Like where is my like Mission Impossible checkmate film? Like, so those are the things, and the worlds that I tend to, really be drawn to, because I feel like new energy can distinguish itself, in that stuff. This is what drew me to like Blade, what drew me to Midnight Suns, and the whole thing.
Oh, I'm going to throw it out, Lilith. Marvel character Quasar. We need a book. He needs a new book. It's been a while.
So Quasar,
yes.
Quasar.
Let's see, put that in his head.
That's not how it goes, but that's how it goes today.
All right. So, and I know you're going to have an answer to this question. So, what else are you working on? Can you say? Is it stuff you can talk about?
I mean, well, on the comic book front, I have a couple things, but I can't really talk about them because you know how it is.
Yeah.
But pay attention to Twitter for that. I might be I something cool soon that I can talk about outside of the comic space. I got some evolutionary stuff that I'm working on, right now. So it's a pretty exciting 2024. I mean, I don't sleep really, and that's hard. But like beyond that, I do have some things that I think could be pretty cool. The best way to find out is really just follow me on Twitter at Bryan Edward Hill. It's Bryan with a Y at Bryan Edward Hill, because I'm not going to call it X because that's stupid. It's Twitter. So I'm there, and I'm on Instagram too, but I don't really Instagram very much. I get very intimidated by the beautiful photographs of people's food. I'm just like, why? How is everyone eating? Like, I just had a piece of Wonder Bread with some thoughts on it. And they got like the shrimp with the thing. And I didn't even know watermelon go with shrimp. So like I just get very intimidated by Instagram. So. But you find me on Twitter. Twitter's words. I can deal with the words. But yeah. I mean, I've got like stuff kind of coming along, but as you can imagine, I can't talk about it too much because we got to focus on the Black Panther. And we got to focus on the Midnight Suns.
Nice.
Well, all I can say is keep up the good work on Black Panther.
Oh, yeah.
I will.
I've been enjoying it a lot. I loved all the variant covers for issue number 1. I was just like, yes. As you can see, my avatar, that's my favorite one.
I see it.
Breakdowns of those. Yeah.
I see it right there. I see it right there. That's it.
Oh yeah, from issue 1, we were like, we got to talk to Bryan again about Ultimate Black Panther. Yeah.
We were basically foaming at the mouth.
Oh, listen, I'm here, because when you mess with Wakanda, Daddy, that's some risky business, Jack.
Oh, no.
Let me say about hard times.
Why don't we just see Medea and Wakanda all of a sudden?
I'm telling you some hard times. You got people coming after you can't find your vibranium, that's hard time.
Jeez. All right, Lilith, anything else for this man, or should we let him get back to
Well, ain't nobody washed your Black Panther suit in 2 weeks. That's hard time.
Where's my
Jack.
Black Panther suit, honey? Where? I need that scene.
Let me tell you something about Bryan Hill, the American Dream. Let me tell you.
Oh, I do have a recommendation since you
Yes.
did mention Alan. Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. Chef's kiss.
That's right. I mean, he's the man. Look, that dude, he's such a
I love
good
how when
dude.
you Google his name now, it's like, who's big enough to fight him?
It's big enough.
He's such a good dude,
He's a
too.
tank.
Like, he's just a great guy. Like, I really can't say enough good about him. You know, I was on a table read in Titans, you know, because before you shoot the episode, like, the actors do a table read. And I hadn't really met him because he wasn't in any of the shows that I had written. And I think this is the first episode that I had written where his character, Hawk, was in the show. And so, you know, he comes in for the table read, and he's like 10 feet tall, you know, just like super, like, boom, looking like Steve Rogers, you know, just like the whole thing. And he's such a nice guy. And I was like, wow, so that's what an actor really looks like up close. Let me poke it. Got poke it. But like super supportive, you know, super nice dude. So I just get happy seeing him do really well. But yeah, I mean, you know, that's, you know, we out here, you know, just like, you know, don't sleep on it. Don't sleep on it.
Never.
All right. So so social media, anything else you want to plug? I know we plugged the Twitter.
I think
Let's
covered
see.
everything.
Yeah, I don't think I have any answers.
You got you don't have a Substack?
I ain't got no Substack. Let me tell you one time.
He got time for
no Substack.
You got time for that?
If you want to see Bryan Hill, the only two ways you can see Bryan Hill, Daddy. You got to go to Twitter. You got to go to the Twitter, and then you type in the @Bryan Edward Hill with the Y. Why? Because you need to, Jack.
That needs to be the video at the top of his Twitter.
I just do wrestling promos from now on. Like, I just want to come on the video podcast and just do wrestling promos.
All right. Well, thank you, sir, so much, because I know you are working on multiple things
I am.
at one time. So, yes, thank you.
And I'm a crazy person.
Oh, we love it.
You
We
have
love
to be
it.
in this world.
Oh,
we
yeah.
love it.
So let me just give a special thanks to everyone who is listening and supporting Capes and Lunatics. Let me tell you, like, the people that spend their time and their energy putting these interviews together, you know, they're not making a lot of money for it, or they're making no money for it, or it's even costing them money sometimes. But they still find the time to get out here and help promote the books and promote the creators that do them. And without them, there'd be a lot less awareness. So first, I want to thank you guys, and I want to thank everyone who is watching and doing all that. So make sure you follow them and support them and retweet it and share it on social media. And anyone who's like spent time like reading a book of mine, you bought a book of mine, you know, you picked it up and held it up in a store and thought about it. I appreciate you. Every single one of you. I don't take any of that for granted. You know, so thank you.
I love this man. Not only is he funny, but he is very positive. Yes, positive.
Gotta
messages.
be, because
Yes.
the world ain't.
No. Oh, we know.
You open the doors like, ah! You're like, woo! I'm gonna play Starfield.
Mm-hmm.
I got some planets
Baldur's
to
Gate
mine.
3 personally, but
Yeah, I'm gonna go to a safer world where evil is running over the world, because I don't understand what's outside that door right there. I don't know what's happening.
All right. So, yes, thank you once again, Bryan, for always sharing your time and keep coming back and putting up with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, go do some work and get your 4 hours of sleep.
I will get my 4 hours of sleep. Autobots, transform and roll out.
But yes, thank you, Bryan. And yes, the people who put this show together make little to no money. So, yes, if you want
hey,
to...
play the drop. Play the drop, Phil.
Oh, what, the Charlie show?
Let's do the podcast. Yeah, the Charlie. Where's the puppet?
How many hands do you think I have?
You pull one out of your... Never mind.
Whoa! Hold on. Now I'm gonna... so...
Okay, let's actually do the podcast that we get paid nothing for.
Unless,
yes, there are several ways you could, again, I mean, if you don't want to spend money, you can always just give us, download the podcast, go watch us on YouTube.
I like to follow, subscribe to YouTube,
Uh-huh.
put an F in the chat.
But if you do want to spend money, yes, you can. You can buy merchandise. We have new merchandise, Capes and Lunatics new logos, new merchandise. We also have...
It's giving electric mullet, but it's fine. I'll let it slide this time.
Wait, what? Which one? This one?
It's giving electric mullet, yeah.
Oh, well, there's several. There's 3. You can take your pick.
There's 3.
And again, the classics are also on there if you want to buy some of these.
So if you want to hang out, if you want to look like Gray.
Yeah, if you want to look like an old dad like Gray, but you can buy the classic stuff. And of course, again, if you just want to be kind and just give us money, there's the Cash App link.
Make it rain.
And of course, the Patreon where you get uncensored Lilith Hellfire. You think this was something tonight? This is nothing. Uncensored.
WWE's getting the SmackDown for April.
That's right. The Rock's going to smell what Lilith Hellfire's cooking. All right, so yes, find it all in one place. That's tubespace.io/CapesandLunatics Podcast Network. That's tubespace.io/CapesandLunatics Podcast Network. And if you didn't catch that, it's okay. It'll be in the show notes.
More vicious and brutal than ever.
And if you want to get a hold of Lilith once every 6 months, you can follow her on Facebook.
Yeah, friend your friendly internet granny on Facebook.
Yes. Oh, I was going to say, I never promote myself. You can find me on Twitter at NightwingPDP.
Well, you done it now. That's at NightwingPDP.
That's right. Keep it positive, like Brian said. And remember, he said the stuff I didn't say. All right. Thank you for joining us. Come on, kids. We gave you like 4 interviews this month. What more do you want?
More! They want more!
Well, I need guests to come on. So if you want to guest on our little podcast, please reach out. CapesandLunatics@gmail.com. All right. For another week, we have been your Capes.
Lunatics! Although, let's be honest, it's just lunatic at this point, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, come on.
Well, no justice in it.
We're all a little lunatics.
We're
all a little lunatics sometimes. Oh my God, can you imagine I pulled the puppet out with Brian? What's that? Oh, it's the puppet of our deceased friend.
Never come back.
I know. He ordered running. All right, again, thank you, Mr. Bryan Edward Hill. Go pick up the Ultimate Black Panther and Midnight Sun.
Yeah, do it.
And Yoda for president.